Hello, this is our copyright presentation for the members Mary Herrera, Rachel McDevitt, April Dimitri, and Maggie Griffith. Our learning targets are: I can speak and write about copyright rules, fair use, plagiarism, piracy, and public domain. I can explain how this applies to my life. I can use elements of the writing process to compose a text. I can interpret both explicit and implicit messages from various forms of media. What do you already know about copyright, piracy, fair use, and public domain? Have you ever heard of these terms before? Do you know what any of them mean? That's what we're going to talk about today. So, what is a copyright? It is the legal rights to an original work. What that means is when you create an article, a song, a movie, a book, or some type of art, then it belongs to you. No one can use your words or images or your creation without your permission. Sometimes the creator does give permission. For example, J.K. Rowling wrote her Harry Potter books, and then she sold her book movie rights to someone who turned it into a movie. So she gave them permission, and they gave her some money in exchange to use her story idea. What if? What if it was okay to copy another person's work? What if you spent a year writing a novel and someone copied it and then sold it under their name? You wouldn't like that very much, would you? Plagiarism. Plagiarism is when you copy someone else's words or other media without giving them credit for it. You can get into big trouble for it. In middle school, you might get a 0 on the assignment or have to redo it. In college, you might get a 0 or kicked out of school for it. In the professional world, you might get fined a lot of money or go to jail. It all depends on the severity of the offense. So, how can you avoid plagiarism? You must give credit to who said whatever it is you're copying. So if you copy something off the internet, you have to say who wrote it. So, for example, I copied this off the internet. It is good to have an end to journey towards, but it is the journey that matters in the end. This was said by Ursula K. Le Guin, originally in The Left Hand of Darkness, which is a novel she wrote. There are many formats in which you can give credit. Two of the kinds you may have heard of before are the MLA and APA, but that is another lesson. We'll do that another day. Piracy. So immediately you probably think of Johnny Depp and skeleton ghosts and things like that. But that's not the kind of piracy I'm talking about. It's similar, but not quite. Pirates steal gold and valuables. The kind of piracy I'm talking about is stealing ideas, stealing movies and music. So, have you ever seen, don't answer this question, but have you ever seen someone in the movie theater recording the movie with their phone? Then they go home and they share it on a website or they sell it. That is called piracy. It is stealing from those who worked hard to make the movie. Fair use. This is a rule which says it's sometimes okay to use small parts of someone's writing or other media for educational purposes. Here are some things to consider when you're trying to decide if what you're trying to do is fair use. First of all, what's the purpose? If the purpose is to educate, then it's okay to use a portion of the work. If the purpose is to just entertain, then it's not really okay without permission. So, decide to educate or to entertain. This is why schools cannot show movies to entertain unless a copyright license has been purchased for that movie. How much of the work is being used is the next question. Don't download a PDF of an entire novel instead of buying a copy of the novel. I can, however, download one chapter to entice students to get a copy for themselves to read. And here's why. Think about the effect that it will have on the sales of the book. That's how authors get paid, is from selling their books. If you were given a PDF of the novel, would you need to buy a copy of the book? Probably not. On the other hand, if you were given a PDF of the first chapter and you liked it, would you buy a copy of the novel? Probably. So that's going to help the author, not hurt them. Think of it this way. Is what I'm doing being fair to the person who spent a long time creating it? And that will help you determine if it's a fair use. Public domain. This is writing and other media which are not restricted by copyright and is free to use. So some things can't be copyrighted, like your name. There's always, every year, I have students with the same name. There's nothing wrong with that. The only exception would be is if I decide to write a novel and I want a pen name, which is a pretend name that I write under. If I decided to make my pen name J.K. Rowling, would that be fair? Not really, because there's already a very, very famous author named J.K. Rowling. So if people see a book with the name J.K. Rowling on the shelf, they're going to think it's her instead of me, and they are more likely to buy the book. So J.K. Rowling would probably get very mad at me if I tried to do that. So that's something where she might have a case in court against me because I'm using her name to promote my book, trick people into buying my book. So that would be one of the only exceptions of copywriting names, is when there's someone really, really famous, like J.K. Rowling or Stephen King or something like that. Some books have expired copyrights. Generally, books are copyrighted until 70 to 120 years after the death of the author. For example, Mary Shelley wrote a novel called Frankenstein. She died in 1851. The novel Frankenstein became public domain somewhere between 1921 and 1971, depending on the country you're in. This is why you see so many variations of the story Frankenstein in movies and in books. It's also why you can quite often get the book for free on your Kindle or your Nook or something like that, because there's not a copyright on it anymore. Some authors choose to license their work with a Creative Commons license. A Creative Commons license is much less restrictive. Commonly, you can use their work without permission as long as you give the author credit as the writer. Cory Doctorow is an example of a famous activist who is a strong believer in free speech and less restrictions on the art forms like stories. He puts many of his stories out for free under the Creative Commons license and helps support the Creative Commons organization financially and promoting it. So, what is this Creative Commons organization? Here's a quote from their website explaining what they do. They help you legally share your knowledge and creativity to build a more equitable, accessible, and innovative world. We unlock the full potential of the Internet to drive a new era of development, growth, and productivity. So down here at the bottom, this double C with a circle, that is the Creative Commons logo. When you see an image or a story with this logo attached to it, it could mean that it is licensed under Creative Commons. So what can you do with this information? You can go to creativecommons.org and search for images, media, music, videos, and more under these items are under Creative Commons license. Often the only requirement is that you attribute the creator, which means that if you use an image, you have to say that it was made or photographed by this person. But it's always good to verify that it is under the Creative Commons license and the attribution is the only thing required, because some of them do have different requirements. So now it's your turn. Take a few minutes to write a reflection about copyright rules. In 2 or more paragraphs, explain what you learned from the lesson, how this information can help you. Do you think it's fair to have a copyright law? I'd like to know your opinion on that. And then for group work, I'll put you into groups and you'll analyze the information and the online links in the copyright handout. Choose to visually explain 5 takeaway points on copyright law, fair use, and/or public domain. Then you're going to, with your group, create an infographic using Pictochart that explains these 5 points. Upload this to our class website as the final step. This infographic will be printed out and we'll share it with the whole class for each student to have a copy for future reference. And finally, so I don't get in trouble for copyright rules, here is the reference list that we use to create this lesson. Thank you very much.